Today we're going to be looking at this PlayStation 4 Pro, which has been sent in, and this console has been sent to another repair centre, specifically CEX, the Computer Exchange Store, and they've deemed it to be unfixable. So we're going to try and fix it ourselves, and this is a PS4 Pro, and apparently it's not connecting controllers. So when you try and sync up the controller, it uses the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi module to connect wirelessly. And if that module goes faulty, then it can cause issues with sync and signal. So basically this apparently doesn't connect at all. I don't know if it connects in safe mode. If it does, then great, then that means we can usually replace the Wi-Fi module. But if it doesn't even connect in safe mode, then that's usually an issue with the NOR flash ROM. And unfortunately on the PlayStation 4 Pro, there's no way, as far as I know, to read the NOR flash ROM. So unfortunately, if it's a case where the NOR is to blame, then there's not really a lot we can do about it. But we're going to take a look, see what we can do, and hopefully get it fixed. But while I've got your attention, if you are new to the channel and you like this type of content, then I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and turn on the bell notifications, and that way you don't miss any future videos. So I've got to be careful what I show here, because obviously, you know, customer information, but basically anyone that's ever sent anything to CEX, or any technician who's ever dealt with anything that's been to CEX, will know the bags that they get sent back in with a big unrepaired sticker on it. Obviously I can't show the entire sticker because, you know, it's private and confidential, but basically this has been to CEX and they said that it's unfixable and that it's got a motherboard issue, and the only way to fix it is to replace the board. I call bullcrap. So let's take a look, see what we can do, and hopefully we can get it working. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is what we always do, and that's going to be to verify the issue that we've got. So I've got the power lead just over here. Let's just make sure that we can see the issue. Huh. Bit strange. Okay, well it's turning on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up to the TV. Unfortunately, PlayStation 4s have something called HDCP, which means that I can't actually connect it to a capture card. But what I can do is just hook it up to the TV, and then you'll be able to see it that way. Okay, so I've got myself a known good sync cable here. So this does allow controllers to be synced. It's my test cable, the one I use for every console, so I know it works. And the console is just rebooting. It's not been shut down properly by the look of it, so I'll just wait for it to fire up. Okay, so we've got a display and USBs have activated, so it is charging a controller according to the orange light on the controller there, and we do have a display there, as you can see. So let's just try and sync up a controller. So I've got it plugged in still. We've still got the orange light. Okay, and it's just flashing. So I'm going to unplug it and just plug it in again. Orange charge light. Yeah, it's not connecting at all. So if I press anything on the controller there, it's not connecting. Yep, unfortunately, still nothing. And there's nothing at all working on the console. Alright. So I'm going to press and hold the power button just to shut it down fully. There we go. So that's shutting down. And then I'm going to load it into safe mode and try the same thing. So while I'm waiting for this to shut down fully, I just thought I'd go over the reason why I'm going to try and load it in safe mode. When the console is powered on and in the dashboard, it uses a completely different method of connecting to the controllers as it does when it's in safe mode. So when it's on the dashboard, it will use the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth module, and when it's in the dashboard, it connects via USB data. So the reason that it sometimes works in safe mode is because it's not using the Wi-Fi module, and it's actually the Wi-Fi module what's gone bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire it up in safe mode and, well, hopefully get it in safe mode. And we'll try and see if the controller connects and works fine with safe mode enabled. So to do that, I'm just going to press and hold the power button until I get a second beep. And it's not going into safe mode. Okay, this also has a partial blue light of death. So it looks like it's got an intermittent blue light of death here. It's struggling to shut down. Okay, now it's just shut down. Okay, so yeah, that's not going into safe mode. That fan's just shut itself down, which means it's not entering safe mode. That's quite weird. I've never known the Wi-Fi module to do that. I think this could be a corrupted NOR flash ROM. We can try changing the Wi-Fi module, but I believe this is possibly a corrupted flash ROM. Let's try and go into safe mode by disconnecting the hard drive. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just basically remove the hard drive completely from the console and then try and boot it up and just see if it allows me into safe mode. Let's grab the power cable there. See, it's taking way too long to respond to that power button as well during the initial power on. Let's just see if it wants to boot up into safe mode at all. We've got the PlayStation logo, which is normal. So what it should do here is it should basically load up the PlayStation logo to try and load the software and then just basically drop into safe mode from there. It's shut down. It's not even going into safe mode. This most likely has a corrupted flash ROM. So I've just took the top off this. Oh, okay, hang on. Oh, hold on. That might have... Yeah, okay, there we go. So it's booting into safe mode that way. So now let's just try popping a different hard drive in it so we can actually do something with the system. And then I'm going to boot up. Taking far too long to respond to that initial power button press. 32 times I just pressed that button before it turned on. And yes, I did count. This should boot into safe mode now. Okay, there we go. Okay. So we're now in safe mode. So now I'm going to remove the hard drive that was in there, so as not to wipe any data. Now, the hard drive that I plugged in, it's to a console I couldn't fix anyway, but kind of beside the point. Someone might be able to fix it in the future. So, basically, what I've just done there is I've basically forced it into safe mode by plugging a different hard drive in. And now I can see if the console is going to connect to the controller. We get the charging light. There we go. Okay. So, I want to reinstall this software, and the reason for that is purely because if it is a corrupted flash ROM, if it's a corrupted NOR, then there is the potential that reinstalling the hard drive is going to fix it. So I'm going to download 8.50. I'm not going to download 9.3 because the customer might want to keep it on an early version. So I'm not going to download a later version. I'm just going to download version 8.50 if I can. 9.0 at a push. Right, okay, so basically I couldn't get 8.5. The file that's on the servers that I've downloaded things from is corrupt. So I've had to get 9.00, but that is still exploitable. So if the customer does want a exploitable machine, then we're not going to ruin the chances of that, because 9.00 is exploitable. I'm going to plug in my external SSD there. Uh, 41283-8. Huh. Never come across that error before. That could be because I switched hard drives back to the original. Maybe. Alright, so while that's downloading, I'm just going to swap out the hard drive for another 1TB one. I don't want to wipe the customer's drive just in case basically there's data on there, and just in case the issue isn't with the hard drive itself or the firmware. So what's going to happen is when I reinstall it, it should overwrite the NOR flash ROM, which contains the firmware. It should overwrite that with a new fresh copy. So if it has become corrupted during a download or something, it should fix the issue. Now, one thing I could try doing if it doesn't work is I could try updating to version 8.52, and basically that would render the customer's other hard drive pretty much useless until I installed an update file. So I'd have to install an update file onto the customer's drive to be able to get it to work again. So we've got the new hard drive in there, we've got the SSD, we've got the controller. Let's see what happens. Okay, we've got the PlayStation logo, that's normal. Should drop into safe mode. It is taking a while, which is what's making me think it is the NOR flash ROM that is at fault. So we'll see in a minute. Hopefully he drops into safe mode again, and hopefully he accepts an update this time on a different hard drive. But we'll see. If he comes up with that error again, then I'll Google it and look at what could possibly cause it. Okay, we're going into safe mode. There we go. Perfect. Four 41283-8. So I've just done a little bit of Googling, and I've never personally come across this error, but one person says that it's disk drive related. Find that hard to believe. The disk drive daughter board on these is actually embedded into the main board. So, and that one I believe is a completely different error code. I don't think 41283-8 is disk drive related. Another person is saying that it is Bluetooth module related. So yeah, that kind of lines up. So we're going to take it apart and we're going to try and fix it. Alright, so let's just kill the power. Let's get rid of all of these. There we go. And I'm going to take this apart. I'll fast forward through this bit because it's boring. But basically, all I'm going to do is just unscrew all of the screws and get this thing disassembled. So I'll resume the video when I'm done. One thing to point out here, how has CEX ever even looked at this? There's no warranty sticker damage. Since they haven't even opened this, they've literally just thought, no, can't fix it, sorry. They've probably tried exactly what I've just tried and then just given up, if I'm being honest. Okay, so here is the Wi-Fi module, and interestingly that is quite warm. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this apart, get rid of all of these screws, take the motherboard out of the housing, and I'm going to remove that by desoldering it. So this is the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth module. Under here is a big circuit board, and I'm going to remove this Wi-Fi module. I'm going to desolder it from the board, and then I'm going to take one from a donor board, re-ball it, and then I'm going to reinstall the new chip onto this board. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'll fast forward through this bit like I said, and I'll pick it up when I'm done. So the Wi-Fi IC is just here. It's not actually an IC, it's a circuit board. I'll try and find an image online of what's inside there. Basically, this Wi-Fi module here is responsible for both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And interestingly, it is discoloured. It's fairly discoloured around here. So that should be coming across on camera. It is fairly discoloured there, so we're going to get that removed. We're going to get it taken care of, and I'll find one on a donor board. Now I will say that there are various different models, so one thing to do is to just take note of the model, and then that way you can make sure that you put the right one back on, because it will cause further issues. So the model number for this one is J20H091. Let me make sure I've got one of those on a donor board. And yes indeed, so I've got one matching here on this PlayStation 4 Slim. So one thing you've got to note as well is the revision number is important. You've got to make sure that the revision number is also important. So the revision number for this board, the NVB004, is 1.5. So you need to make sure that you match up the revision number and the model number to ensure that you're installing the correct Wi-Fi module. So there's going to be some revision ones and things like that. Don't install the wrong revision because you could cause further issues. So we've got a matching chip there anyway, so that's the main thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some hot air, and I'm going to remove this Wi-Fi module from the board that I'm working on first, prep the area, and then I'll remove it from the donor board and we'll work on that. I will see if I've got one on another board, because this board does actually work. I've just stolen the Southbridge off it, but I've got a Southbridge on the way for it and I want to try and get that working. So if I can help it, I'm not going to take it from that board. So I've got my hot air here set at 480 degrees Celsius at 40% airflow. Sorry, no, I'm at 60% airflow. I'm just going to warm up the board first. Keep moving the air around until the board is nice and warm. So I can see some discoloration to this chip here. So that does indicate that we've got an issue there with the Bluetooth module or the Wi-Fi module. Okay, so that's ready to come up. And grabbing it is the issue. There we go, I got that. So there's the old chip. I think I might have knocked the capacitor off there, but that's fine. I can fix that. Actually no, that capacitor's not meant to be there. So that again is fine. So what I'm going to do now is just basically clean up this area. And to do that I'm going to add some more flux. This was flux what I was putting on here, by the way. I get a lot of questions asking me what flux I use. Kingbo RMA 218. It's upside down. Kingbo RMA 218. It's cheap, it's cheerful, it does the job, it works great. So what I'll do now is just add some leaded solder to the mix, because the solder that's on the board right now is unleaded solder. It's lead free, and it's got a higher melting temperature than leaded. So what I'll do is I'll just basically mix the lead free solder with leaded, and that's going to lower the melting temperature by changing the chemical mixture. So I'm just going to add a blob of solder and just run the iron across. And now I'm going to come in with some solder braid. So the solder braid I'm using is Chemtronics number 3. So I'm just basically cleaning up all of the solder and prepping the pads ready for a new chip. That area is prepped. And I do actually have one on a matching donor board. So I'm going to take that one instead of that one. Save butchering that board any more than I absolutely need to. So once again I'm going to do the removal using the same method, just hot air and a bit of flux, because when it's ready to come up I can just lift it. So I'm just going to hold this off the table for a little while, and I'm going to drop it onto this plate just here. Whoops, it sprung clean out of the tweezers there. Good job it didn't do that while the solder was molten, because that entire circuit would have gone everywhere inside there. And I'm not going to use the microscope for this. I don't think it's needed. The solder balls are more than big enough. 0.76mm does the job nicely. So the solder balls are more than big enough to be able to do it by eye. And I'm more than happy to do it by eye. So exact same process as before. I'm going to add some leaded solder before starting to wick. Remember, this is another PCB, it's not a chip. So we don't want to damage the conformal coating what's on there. There's an entire circuit underneath here. Or underneath the shield rather. Okay, so that should have lowered the melting temperature. And now I'm going to come back in with the solder braid. There we go, perfect. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is just clean up. So I'm going to use IPA. That stands for isopropyl alcohol. And I'm using 99.9%, so it's basically pure. Okay. Just make sure that the surface is nice and clean. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use something a little bit magical. I'm going to use a magnet. Whoops. So, because this is steel on here, it should hold into place. It's not got a very good magnetic force, but it does hold. So I'll just add a bit of flux. And just spread out evenly. Just want a nice thin layer. Just a nice thin layer. There we go. Beautiful. And then I'm going to take some 0.76mm solder balls. And just sprinkle them on the chip. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is just place one ball on each pad. Okay, so once that's done, and you've made sure you've got just one ball on each pad, we can inspect the chip. And I'm going to make sure that I've got no excess solder balls around the edges, and that there's no solder balls lying in the middle. There we go. You can tip it upside down if you really want to. The flux should hold it. The keyword there is should. Okay, so back onto the ceramic holder now. I could use the holder part, but it's not really needed. So back onto the ceramic one. And then I'm going to knock my airflow down to 5%. And I'm going to reflow the solder balls onto the chip. Okay, so I'm going to start off at a distance, just to prevent the balls from flying out all over the place. And I actually do have an excess solder ball on there. There we go. Good, I can't see any more. Okay, those balls are starting to flow into place. We've got one troublesome ball. Come on. Okay, so I'm going to let that settle. And then just add some flux all over the chip. So a little bit more flux this time. Just basically cake the bottom of the chip in flux. Make sure you've got enough on there. Let's increase to 20% airflow. And we'll reflow these again. Awesome. Alright, let that cool for 2 minutes before you start messing. Okay, so remember the chip is going to be hot, but the reason I said let it cool is because the metal plate that's on the top, remember that's soldered on, so if you was to move that while the solder was molten, then that plate is going to fall off and off comes all of the chips underneath. That's something you don't want. So that's pretty much just ready now. There you go. Beautiful. There we go. And it's not very easy to get this rung. If you take a look here, we've got one ball missing. There's one ball missing on the chip as well. So we're going to line that up correctly. There you go. Push that down in place. And then I'm going to flow that down using hot air. So same temperature, 40% airflow though. Let's flow it down. So the reason I use hot temperature is because there is a plate there, remember, and that's blocking some of the heat. But I'm just going to basically guide the chip to start with to make sure it doesn't slide downwards. That should be good now, it shouldn't move anywhere. Move the heat away for a minute. Add some flux. Just allow that flux to fall under the chip. And then flow it once more. This time I'm going to come in with the tweezers, and when it's flowed down I'm going to give it a tap and make sure that it nudges back into place. That's going to tell me that all of the solder balls are molten and that it's soldered onto the board. So at the minute it's solid. There we go. Just give that a nudge. And we're done. And then we're going to give it a tap to make sure it's set. A very gentle tap. And the same with the top plate as well, just to make sure that's set back into place. And then I can clean it. So I can use a bit of isopropyl alcohol with a toothbrush and give it a really good scrub. Just get rid of all of that flux that's on the board, including the stuff left over by Sony. As you can see, the plate is discoloured, but That's not an issue, it's just a plate. Obviously we've used hot air, so it's going to get some kind of discoloration. You can use a BGA machine for this as well, but I figured because not many people have got a BGA machine, I would kind of just do it without. I do usually use a BGA machine if I'm not filming it, but most people haven't got one, so just show that it can be done with hot air. It's not that difficult. Didn't even use a microscope. I'm just going to scrub all the way around, including just down off camera, just because flux would have fell down there. There we go. And let's give this a whirl. So as you can see, that's soldered back on nicely. It's nice and flat, even on all sides. Should be good to go. Alright, so one thing I am going to do before I go any further is just clean the system out, because it is quite dusty. So I'm going to clean the system out and then I'll resume the video. And let's put some fresh MX4 on. And then we can drop the board back in. Alright, so we're going to need the antennas connected up to be able to make sure everything works. So I'm going to connect these up, but I'm not putting the top plate on yet. Bit of IPA there, that's fine, to evaporate. So let's connect up the PSU, flip it back around. And I'm going to put the customer's hard drive back in, rather than my own. And that way then I can boot into the operating system and try it then. Alright, good, there we go. Let's connect up the power cable. And the HDMI cable. And let's turn it on. That responded nicely. No heat coming from the Wi-Fi IC. And no excess heat coming from the RAM as well. And it's gone straight to a white light this time. Cannot start the PS4, okay, that's fine. So it's doing that because I've took the hard drive out. Okay, so let's cancel that. And that's going to shut down. And then I'll turn it back on. And this time I'm going to see how responsive that power button is. Instant. First click. Okay, let's see if it boots. That was instant. This might be fixed. Okay, time for the moment of truth. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. Let's check Wi-Fi. Okay, it's not going to sign into PlayStation Network because it's running on version 8.5. And there we go. Perfect. So there you go. As you can see, system software version 8.50. Now, I'm not going to update this because that's not my job. The customer might not want it updating, so that's up to them what they do with this. So there we go. Another one fixed. This came in for an issue with the Bluetooth module. The controllers wasn't connecting during the dashboard. It was connecting in safe mode, but it was incredibly slow and it was on the borderline blue light of death. So basically the Wi-Fi IC can cause a lung pulsing blue light of death on these. I have had it before. So basically by running through a few little diagnostic steps, such as trying to reinstall the software and basically trying to update the software onto a new hard drive, trying to connect to the controller in the dashboard and things like that, and as you can see here, it does work wirelessly as well. So I'm not sure if that's coming across in the background as I'm navigating through menus, but everything's working absolutely fine just by replacing that Wi-Fi module. Those things cost around about £15 to £20 for a Wi-Fi module. You can get them from AliExpress, or you can get them off a dead board as long as it's the same board or the same Wi-Fi module. I did have one matching on this PlayStation 4 Slim board, but you know, obviously I'd rather not take it off there because I've already got to replace a Southbridge on this, and I don't really want to butcher it any more than I have to. So I managed to find one on a dead board, one that is completely beyond repair, and this console's working again. Happy days. So that's going to be for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll always do my best to answer. If you want to organise a repair, you can do so by getting in touch using the website in the video description. You can book in the repair, or you can get in touch using the contact page if you've got a query about the repair that you want to send in. If you want to support the channel, then you can do so by becoming a Twitch subscriber. Use the link in the video description, head over to Twitch, link your Amazon Prime account, and you can become a Twitch Prime subscriber for free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me out. It gives me around about $2.50 a month, and it really does support the channel. You can also become a Patreon supporter using the link in the video description. You can also become a channel member using the join button below the video, and you can donate directly using the donate links in the video description as well. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy this type of content, then be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications. That way you don't miss any future videos. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, see you later. Bye for now.